Hello game design gurus and welcome to the Level Design Lobby. Hey guys and girls, welcome to the Level Design Lobby. You're joining me, your host, Max Pears. And before we get into the episode, I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of the show, Gamerborn. Gamerborn does some amazing clothing and also gaming accessories like mugs. It does it from all ranges of size, from children, if you've got a little gamer with you, to male and female. They're an amazing company. If you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you will have seen me modeling. Those pictures are getting pretty creative right now, I'm not going to lie. I've been having fun with it. But yeah, there'll be a link in the description. If you go there, you'll get a 10% discount on any purchase if you use the code Level Design Lobby, one word. Again, that'll be in the description for you guys to copy and paste. Go check them out. So now, this is the 20th episode of the Level Design Lobby.
Special.
Yeah, and I've got two alumni of the Level Design Lobby joining us again, because it's one of the popular episodes of the series thus far. We've got Marthe and Ward.
We're back. It's nice to be back. Yeah.
It was impactful how you said that. So, if you guys haven't checked it out, it's episode 9 where I chat with them about concept art. So, that's a lot of words into one sentence there. Back by popular demand, I've brought these two with me and back here for you guys, because a few of you had questions which we will be addressing at the end of this episode. But we're going to have quite a fun episode chatting about a few things before we get there, though. So why don't you say how are you doing, guys, and reintroduce yourself in case people haven't seen the 9th episode, if you wouldn't mind.
So, ladies first.
No.
Oh, okay. We're not sexist.
No, exactly. We're equal.
I'm Ward Lindhout. I'm a concept artist. Work with Max.
Don't you, Ward?
Don't I? And I've worked before in Japan at Capcom and Tango Gameworks. And Marthe, you have a release coming up next week.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Marthe Jonkers. I'm also a concept artist, and I also work with Max.
Da-da-da.
Oh my god! and I also worked at Capcom. Wow. And I have a release coming up. Yes, next week. Well, I don't know when you air this episode, but
it's coming out next week when we're recording this, though.
Okay, so now out in stores. It's Monster Hunter World, for which I did all the environment concept art.
Oh shit!
Ooh, yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Do you know if they're going to do any special editions with any of your concept arts in?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Go buy the special one and support them.
They might do art books, but usually they're a little bit later.
Yeah, but Monster Hunter always has these elaborate art books, so yeah.
You'll see some of her work in there.
Yeah.
So, exciting times.
Yeah.
So, do you want to first, can we ask you any questions about Monster World? Obviously not too in-depth, but...
Yeah, we could talk about it a little bit.
We'll do a little, because legal reasons we won't go too much detail there. But I guess the first one was, what was it like working on that? Because I imagine, because this is I don't know which installment, but obviously the Monster Hunter franchise has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
So what was it like working on it?
For me, it was actually always a dream to work on it. When I wanted to become a concept artist, my dream was to do concept art for Monster Hunter, because I love that game. And they have so cool designs and so original monsters and armors and environments. And yeah, that was my dream. So when I started at Capcom, I first had to do Dragon's Dogma, which was a different franchise.
Yes.
Also very cool. But after 3 years of experience, they thought I was ready. And as the first foreign designer, I could join the Monster Hunter team. So that was super exciting. And then I was just in charge of all the environments. And I could design all the environments, and it was absolutely amazing.
So I guess one of my questions, and I imagine other people, is because it's quite, as you said, a very creative world in terms of the monsters, the armor, and the characters, the little cat people. You know, was there anything you guys had to like keep in mind when designing these? Well, like any sort of, obviously I know you can't go into too much detail, but was there anything like that you guys had to consider or like try focus on when you're making these worlds? Or
Yeah, because Monster Hunter is like a long franchise. They have tons of different games. So we really needed to stay true to the style of Monster Hunter. And that means that our art director, he had a really strong vision and really strong opinion. So we really needed to stay in this style. And that means like the colors, for instance, needed to be Monster Hunter colors. And all the designs, the patterns, the logos, the lettering, everything needed to be in this certain style. So it was pretty tricky. It was not just like just design an environment. No, it had to be really like a certain type of environment. So it took a lot of time, a lot of iterations to get that style right. Especially, I guess, for me, because I'm a foreigner. I did play, of course, the Monster Hunter games, but as a foreigner, you kind of have a different background, you have a different style. And Monster Hunter is, in my eyes, pretty Japanese style. So for me, was at first I just got some time to just draw all these different ideas, and then I would get some guidelines for like, this is in the direction of Monster Hunter. No, this is way too Western, or this is way too. This style doesn't match the Monster Hunter style. So I had some time to get adjusted. And after that, they made the level designs actually. And then I could do all the paint overs of all the areas in very detailed.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But it's based. It's really Japanese, but also it's really based on nature, right? All the Monster Hunter games, they really like take their inspiration from just nature itself. So in that sense, it's also kind of like a global,
That's the globally recognized
appeal.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it's not something everyone can understand, because we all were cavemen at one point, you know. So I think that's one of like the fun parts.
So there is some
Monster
sort
Hunter.
of universal style in there, but still, like I think the color scheme, for instance, the atmosphere in Monster Hunter is very unique. I think you can see from the environments that it's Monster Hunter.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was really the goal.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't. If you see the game, if you see the first screenshot from the trailer, you know, that's Monster Hunter. You know, that's.
I think it's interesting though, because this one to me seems to have wider appeal than some of the previous ones. I mean, I think the first one was out on PSP, or like a lot of them were on mobile devices prior. So I think this one's got. I don't know what it is about this. Maybe it's the platform or something, but I feel this one has a wider appeal in terms of the audience it seems to have reached. Like I've played some of the Monster Hunter. I do enjoy them, but I'm not the biggest fan. But this one to me is like one that's appealed to me in a while.
I think it's also because of the platform, because finally it's like PS4, so we have like cool graphics.
Rest in peace, PS Vita, my boy.
And they did a lot of research also into what non-Japanese audience thought about Monster Hunter.
Did they ask you then?
Yeah, of course, because I was a fan and I was foreigner, so and I did a lot of play testing as well, and gave my opinion, and they changed some things to make it a little bit more smooth, I guess. I think Japanese gamers really like a very big challenge, and they're like really hardcore when it comes to gaming, and the Western audience would like to have something a little bit more accessible. And so they did change a couple of things in the gameplay. As you could see, they had a beta some time ago where you could play the game already. And there you could see, for instance, you can now see how much damage you do to a monster, which was previously you could never see. Like you would hit a monster and you had no idea if it was like, if you were doing okay or if you were really crappy. But now you can see.
Just brought back like horrible flashbacks of my first experience now.
So you get a little bit more feedback on what you're doing, and those kind of small tweaks is what really made the game more for a Western audience.
And it's like seemingly like a seamless world, right? It's not like you have all these loading screens you had always in between every area, which was kind of breaking the immersion. So I think that's also a big improvement of like the.
I think it'd be interesting from an open world point of view because like most Japanese games in terms of open world design, they have like a separate sort of like here's this big area for combat, and then any like normal non-combat experiences like conversation or interactions are normally done in like cities. Like that was a big thing. Like even you go way back to the early Final Fantasies, and even stuff like Xenoblade Chronicle 2, it still has that to a degree. So I'd be interested to see how Monster Hunter World,
incorporates.
Yeah,
I mean, if you played the beta, of course I can't say a lot about the game.
Yeah, no.
yet, but you could already see that there was a much more integration between the story. There's this girl character who is going with you, and you meet her also in like the nature areas where you're hunting for monsters, and there's all these stuff you can discover in this area. Yeah, I think they really mixed it really well. So
yeah, I think it'd be a cool one. Okay, so my final question to you, because I kind of put you on the spot with this one, is what was, I guess, your favorite area to design? Because probably when people hear this, they'll have played the game.
I really liked the desert area because it was the first one where I had all responsibility for every area.
Wow.
So it was really cool to figure out how to make a desert be interesting. So you can see there's a lot of stuff. Oh, actually, the desert area has this purple field in it.
Okay.
And that is based on, I'm from Holland. And in Holland we have these we have these purple fields. We call them the hei. I don't know what it is in English actually. But it's heath.
I think, yeah.
It's a really Dutch landscape. So
Okay.
it's all these purple flowers. And I showed it to the art director and he said, wow, that's super cool. Let's put it in the game. And now in the desert area, there's actually this field of purple flowers based on a Dutch landscape.
That's awesome.
So it's sort of my personal like Easter egg in that area.
That's really fucking cool.
Yeah, that's really cool, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you see that, go check it out, and we know Martha did it. So yeah. So we're going to move on to our next topic. We all played a game, not together, because I'd be like the weird third wheel if that was the case. But we've all just recently played HellBlade as well.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about that just because we all think, in case you didn't realise, it won a lot of awards at the end of 2017, rightfully so. Like there were some really cool things, like the whole subject matter it touched on was brilliant. I'm personally a big fan of Ninja Theory. They're one of the best in the UK in my opinion. I love them. I actually liked the new DMC, the latest one they did. Controversial.
Me too.
Yeah. It didn't deserve what it got in terms of stick.
No.
So yeah, we're going to touch up briefly on this before we move on to the next section. So we'll talk on this. I'll kick it off. So to me, like, just, I don't know if you guys remember the beginning, but its opening was really strong in my opinion in terms of like a cinematic point of view, because you were coming in through the boat and then the names appeared, and I thought that was really nice because it was setting, to me it set the tone really well from like, you also felt isolated in many ways because you started to hear the voices, but you're seeing the words as well. Like, so the communication wasn't from anything around you. It was all either from an environment with the words or like in your head as well. And I've got a really like stress quit session with the words we'll get on to later, which is my own funny story. But but I thought that was brilliant because like when you're coming through this area as well, because you don't know where you're going, like as a player, you instantly start on this boat, and then you land on this island where you see people who have been I guess the Viking term for it was blood-eagled, where their back is opened and they remove your lung. And the crazier thing is, if you screamed in pain, you didn't go to Valhalla.
Yeah.
But like, if someone's removing your lung, like, I'd be amazed if you didn't scream. Like,
it's like that Vikings episode.
Yes, the blood eagle. Oh. But I think the thing is like, the great thing that I really enjoyed from that is also because it had these voices were telling me like, you can't do this, you're crazy for doing this. And like, as soon as I landed and I saw these kind of bodies who were hung and stuff, I instantly was like, yeah, maybe I can't do this. Is there a turnaround like option here? Like, I thought that was a really interesting one from the get-go, that these voices were used to make you like normally in games, as you go and fight the impossible, whether it be a huge monster, you have to save the world, save a family member or your partner, and like there's always these big challenges which you know are meant to make you feel small and meant to make you be like, oh man, can I do this? But yeah, I felt those words were really effective in doing that, because I played it with headphones especially, and it was just me in my apartment.
That's good,
you get like the 360.
Yeah, so
feeling.
like I instantly felt weaker, I guess, mentally in the state because of that compared to other games, which I thought was really, really interesting.
And what I thought was really cool as well was at the beginning that there were these kind of tutorial sections. For example, these voices in your head, they say like duck to go underneath the bridge or the log or whatever. But it doesn't say what you actually have to do. It doesn't say like press X to duck or something. So you kind of have to figure it out. But you instantly do it. Yeah. So for me, that was much more immersive than putting this like control scheme in your face, like as if you were playing a game. It was so that was I thought that was really, really clever. Yeah,
I think as an industry as a whole, I think we struggle with the problem of trying to we hold the hand longer on players than we need to. There's often a lot of time where. I understand why people do it, is in case someone who has never played these franchises comes across to try it. So I understand the reasoning behind it. But if you give someone a controller, they're going to mess around. Yeah. So sometimes I feel like they do the tutorials about look up, look down, look left, look right. Like that to me, I don't think is needed because your thumbs are instantly placed in here anyway. Yeah. The player instantly, regardless if they're new, old, or whatever, are going to try stuff out. So I agree.
I also think there's kind of like a fun aspect to learning something, and by just prompting someone what to do, you kind of
I actually appreciated that they gave me the opportunity to figure it out myself and just try it out, and then. I was much more immersed.
But for example, in game design, like university, where we were before we got a job, you always learn it has to be easy to learn, hard to master or something. But especially it has to be easy to learn. But so I think because of kind of that philosophy, you always have to feel like you need to have this hand holding at the beginning.
I think that's part of the reason why people are enjoying Dark Souls and Cuphead. Because it's refreshing in many ways. Because that's like one of the biggest mantras there is. But like I said, people focus too much on the easy to learn instead of the hard to master part of the statement. I think the other thing that was really nice is, to me, Ninja Theory do really great combat. Like in HellBlade, Enslaved, DMC was brilliant. Like the triggers having the devil or the angel, and then the combinations you could do for that was brilliant. But it was interesting because they kind of stripped that back. All these like fancy, cool, like if you look at Dante, his movements very like agile and very like kick-ass, and you feel badass for pulling off some cool combos. While here, I guess like in For Honored, the combat felt heavy, because you focused on one person, and that person was normally in your field of view, and you had to like choose the right way in terms of who to attack and to parry at the right moments in certain ways. So like it was more stripped back in terms of combat, but I think it worked for, again, the heaviness of the tone, as well as the whole sort of these creatures, we don't know if they were real or if they like were people, but again over exaggerated in terms of the mind of Senua, and yet that whole combat I think worked with it, and I thought that was a really nice system.
And what did you think of the permanent death? So
I thought, so this is going to lead on to my stress story. So this isn't, I didn't rage quit, but I definitely raged. It was because I knew about it, and like I died once. Yeah. And it was to do I just made a careless mistake and I just died, and I was like, oh fuck. Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, and then I was against the Crow boss, and and he does these this tornado attack that spins at me, and I didn't realize you had to parry it. Like I was dodging, but I never fully got out of the way, even though I did. And all the while that's going on, like I said, it's me and my partner with just my headphones on, and all I'm hearing as I'm starting to get annoyed that I'm not getting this, and knowing that permadeath is on the rope here, like, because I don't know if it's after 2 deaths, 3 deaths, 5 deaths,
Yeah.
and you just don't know.
Yeah.
And then the voices say, "You can't do this.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
worthless.
yeah.
And I paused the game and I was just like, shut up! Because like,
See how good it works.
no, it worked perfectly, like, but it was not my most calm, cool, collected
But
moment.
I thought it added so much to
Tension.
the game.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I was so afraid to die. I even put it
Yeah.
on easy
I
at
did.
some point.
Yeah. So I was like,
But then, can we spoil it?
well, yeah, spoilers if you guys haven't
Okay.
played already.
Because I don't think you can die. Because at one point, my whole arm, you could see it on the arm,
Yeah.
right? And at one point, the whole arm was infected, and then I died 2 or 3 more times, but I never like really died. So I
But-
think it wasn't.
Do you wonder if that was because it was on
because
easy?
maybe-
No, but I think,
no,
I saw this YouTube video where they die like
like
tons of times
50
and they still
times?
don't die.
So if so, then still it's genius.
Oh,
because
yeah.
you feel this tension and you play this game with this
Yeah.
tension.
Yeah.
And even though you cannot really die, it added so much to this game. Because
Oh.
for me it was really heavy to play. I couldn't play it for a long time. I had to play like in small sessions.
Right.
Because it was just so... You hear these voices and you think you're
Yeah.
gonna die and it's all dark and your vision is blurred and like it's really intense. But
And I think the other thing is like the combat adds to that because it is
Yeah.
just you, like, again, it's not like you taking on hundreds like in a Zelda game or Shadow of War or anything, you know, like if you know their stress comes from the numbers, while this is like any one person at any time
yeah.
could take you out. And
Yeah.
I think that was a really interesting,
It's-
again, worked well.
Yeah.
and it's also
For-
kind of like the psychological stress
Yeah.
Yeah.
this whole situation just puts on you. I think the only game that ever gave me that before was Silent Hill 2. That you
Man, that's a
didn't,
great game.
yeah, that you couldn't play it like in one go. That you
Because
had
it
to kind
was
of like
so
pause
intense.
because it was kind of
Yeah.
heavy.
I think that, I mean, yeah, I think they both have heavy, like, not issues, like, I guess, like, a meaning is the word I'm looking for, like, because, you know, Silent Hill 2, for example, is like you trying to deal with the loss of your partner, and then, I take it you guys finished it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Again, spoilers on Silent Hill 2. I feel if you haven't
Big
completed
spoilers.
it, yeah. If you haven't completed it, I feel it may be your own fault. No, is you start to question, the character starts to question, like, was he a good husband during her, like, time period in terms of, like, the psychology of it? Like, the girl you meet, it's not, his wife was called Mary, but I forgot, Marie might have been the other girl's name, but she looks identical to your
Yeah.
wife, and, like, there's all this stuff
She's
with,
like everything he wanted her to be
Yeah.
at one point or something. I mean, it's
it
long
was
time
what
ago,
he
so I
was
don't really
like
remember it.
craving
Yeah.
while she was ill, because obviously
Yeah.
he couldn't do sexual things with her and stuff, and I think I don't know if he ever said if he cheated or not, but like I definitely think he had thoughts of cheating while his wife was hospitalized. And like this one is again like of a partner that you've lost, and like it's not
Yeah, it's quite similar in a way.
yeah, and it's not even that like overcoming your, it's one overcoming your demons with the with the voices and stuff, and the literal demons of the monsters you fight, but also the thing of like accepting loss as well, because she feels a lot of guilt for her, like I guess it was husband who died because of, you know, she went away during the times when the Vikings
Yeah.
raided, and she was a Celtic warrior, I believe.
Yeah, I thought maybe I didn't like totally read into it, but for the first like couple of hours I thought like we were a Viking, so I didn't totally get like the story, but then it was like, oh, okay.
But I don't remember the ending completely, but I believe that in the ending I thought she would be like healed and like the voices are gone, but they're not. They stay until the very ending, and I thought that was really strong.
Yes.
Like you can't just cure
But especially
like your mental condition
especially
by
after you
know
you listen to the, or you
She-
watch the kind of like documentary
The Dev
that you
Diaries,
watched.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really powerful, because then you kind of realize where a lot of choices
in
they
there.
made
Yeah.
making the game came from.
Mm.
Because at first, for example, I was like, the UI, it looks a little bit like digital or something like that.
Yeah,
So
it
does
looks
it
sort
fit?
of strange, but
then reading or watching the documentary, they explain where it comes from, and then you kind of like get this extra layer of depth, which was really
I thought there was
interesting,
so much respect for showing what psychosis is about. And that made the game so interesting and not this happy. Well, she of course, there's some sort of light at the end because she kind of fought her demons, but also being honest about it, like you can't just fix this. This is part of Senua, and she can't just be like a normal woman again. But still, you know, it was sort of a respectful way of using psychosis to create a game, which is of course sort of controversial, I guess.
Well, I think that's the best part because, I mean, I'm going to turn this into a controversial topic now, but because the Detroit recent demo at one of Sony's press conferences got a lot of
with like the maid robot,
with the assault of the child. That's got a lot of controversy from the main media around it. And because, you know, it's a sensitive topic and what have you.
But I think it's kind of maybe because they took that scene, which is controversial, from the game and just showed that scene as a kind of like a demo or a trailer, and then you don't have context at all, so it's much harder to judge what you're actually seeing.
To me, I felt they were doing it because, again, the issue I think main media still hasn't fully accepted with games is the interactivity part. And like think about what happens in movies, books, TV shows. There's rape in there. There is abuse to partners, spouses, and children. And like this has been going on in other forms of media for a long time.
But would you show that in a trailer?
Wait, but can you tell me?
So the trailer was, you are this robotic maid, and she basically she's been reset by the owner, and the owner is a single parent father who has a daughter, and basically in the trailer it basically reveals that you were switched off, like reset, because of some issues that you stepped in about. And then
the abuse.
Yeah, the dad abuses the child, and then now that it shows that there's multiple endings to this, you help her escape, you do nothing, she dies, and stuff. But to me, like, I think it's like you're saying, like Psychosis here in HellBlade was done very, very well because it was respectfully done in terms of the research. I still think Detroit can do the same thing, and I think games have the most amazing ways to show to give empathy and sympathy because of the interactivity, to show like a book or a film is going to happen whether you're there or not. A book isn't. A movie or TV show will go on if you're there or not, but like a book or a game, the two things we have in common is like it only goes if the player or reader goes from there. And the great thing about games is though is like if done right, is we have a choice to show the impact of a player's actions, whether it be like in Uncharted, after you've been in a building or a tomb, it's destroyed. You're well aware that you've been there because the whole building has come down on Nathan Drake. Or to some sort of choice with like a Fable, for example, where it has the meter of you being good or evil, and then it shows your relationship with town folks because of that, and also on your physical appearance. So again, I don't want to touch too much on this topic because I just think, I know my opinion, but I think, like saying, the great thing about Senua and HellBlade is the amount of research that went into it.
Yeah.
But I think also cool. One of the strengths was that it was a metaphor, so it wasn't shown literally. It wasn't shown literally that you were like, for example, having a psychosis or something. You would only like gather that because of like some of the story elements, or it wasn't like shown literally in your face, and also with Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
You didn't like literally do all those things to your wife, etc. So I think in a game, because you kind of discover all that stuff while going through the game, makes it having the story more impact.
Yeah.
maybe than just showing it literally. I'm just like,
but that's really
thinking out loud
interesting because like I knew that because I was watching the dev diaries before the game was released, so I knew what it was about. They mentioned it prior,
So we
didn't know.
See, that's interesting.
So
in
we
the
were
game it
playing
says
it and we
like
didn't know.
you shouldn't watch the dev diary
Yeah.
before finishing the game.
So we were just playing it. I didn't know what the voices were about,
Yeah.
who they were.
That's
and
really-
it was kind of
okay.
and I didn't understand. Like like the interface, we didn't really understand it. At
But
one
because
point,
you
you kind of
discover it,
find
I
out.
think that's really powerful.
But I didn't know that much about psychosis. I didn't know
Yeah.
that you would see this stuff, and I didn't know all these elements that they did
Yeah.
research into. So for me, it was really sort of an eye opener,
Yeah.
that game, and I think that's what's so good about that game.
Yeah, no, I
Because
completely
I
agree.
actually learned things
Yeah.
about this, and yeah.
I think that comes
made
back
an
to
impact.
the thing also you were saying, like learning can be fun, and you're saying like you learn about this, which is especially more mental illnesses are being treated and taken more seriously now in today's age, which is amazing. I think it's interesting to see is like 3 people who don't have mental psychosis, or I mean, like I personally don't know anyone who suffers from this. So it's interesting to see, like again, how serious it's taken, but also see how they use that in their narrative, in their gameplay. Like their puzzles are based on seeing things that may not be there, which then trigger like flashbacks, which again is really nice and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a more layered approach to
Yeah.
a heavy topic, and just showing abuse is not a layered approach, and I think that's maybe why
Yeah.
there's a controversy there,
But
because
again,
it's sort of in your
yeah.
face, and
but again, like that's an interesting one because of the whole. It's a trailer, so yeah, maybe it's because out of the context.
out of context, yeah.
But again, like these subjects, this is my opinion. You know, everyone can disagree and have their own opinion. Obviously, I'm up to talking about it. My opinion is if it comes to something heavy, and it's the same with this. Like I think psychosis is a heavy topic. I think people do, from my understanding from watching documentaries on people who do suffer from it, they do feel isolated by other people because people don't know how to treat them. In England, we say like walking on eggshells is when you don't know how to interact with someone, so they feel like people interact with them like that. So I think the great thing is to show the heavy reality about it, which I think makes you truly understand them better. And when it comes to abuse or anything, like you can never, I don't think you can ever show it or treat it right without showing the horrid side of it. And yeah, maybe there needs to be more context in certain ways, but for me, I'm happy games like HellBlade, like Detroit, and there is other games out there already which are taking on serious subjects and trying to approach them from a gameplay standpoint, because I think as a medium we have an amazing way. Like Last Guardian is another one. Like what I mean by that is it doesn't deal with a heavy topic, but it deals with this whole understand. If you had a pet, you'll kind of relate to The Last Guardian because of how that has an interaction with an AI. What I mean, like to relate that back to the other 2 games, is we have a way that is our gameplay to relate and show things to an audience that other mediums can't.
Yeah.
And again, like it's trying to figure out the right way to do it, and maybe
because that's tricky.
Yes.
That's the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
To do it in the correct way, the right way, where you actually like get that feeling from the player and not just entertain the player, because that's such a thin line. And I think
but in order to proceed in the bigger picture, it's also not bad if some, for example, games like stumble a bit with it or do some things too much, for example, because that's how
it's
we learn.
Part of
it's part of the
development,
process of developing
of
the
learning
medium.
how to handle these subjects. I think we shouldn't like avoid these subjects.
Because if you're starting to avoid them, then you're
but
doing
you
the
have
wrong
to be
thing,
really, really careful with these subjects.
But it's interesting because I think it was about like a year or 2 ago, I read an article on Eurogamer. They got their hands on like it must have been an alpha of HellBlade or something, and their opinions at the time were not good. They felt that the psychosis was treated to. I'm paraphrasing here, but they said something along the lines of like cartoony. It was too gameplay heavy. It wasn't actually representing like they were expecting something a bit deeper and stuff. And I think that was interesting to hear, and now to see the final product as well.
Yeah, because they really pushed it. I think because of that criticism, we saw the documentary they made, the making of, where they really did some extra effort to make it more genuine, and they really put in that extra mile to handle this subject in a more respectful way, I guess.
Yeah. And there we have it, guys. This is the end of the first part of the concept art. We do have part 2 coming out later on in this month. And it's really great to have Marthe and Ward on as well. We will be answering some of your questions in part 2 as well, discussing further our thoughts on HellBlade. I mean, as you can hear, overall, we really did enjoy it. So I just want to say thank you very much for them being over, and thank you all for the support. If you do want to contact me, please do so on Twitter @MaxPairs. If you want to email me, it's leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. And thank you all very much. I will catch you all next time.